Boo and welcome to Easy Modern Asian. Today we're going to be making sesame coated cashews, and it's cashews that we're cooking in some caramelized sugar and sprinkling with sesame salt. It's absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to start with the sesame salt, and this is some very easy seasoning that is used a lot throughout Vietnamese cooking. So in the wok I've got 4 ounces of sesame seeds with 2 teaspoons of salt. You don't have to put the salt in, but you'll have to put it in later anyway, so I go ahead and do it right now in the wok. And we're just going to toast it until it's nice and brown. So it will take about 5 to 8 minutes for this to get nice and toasty. And this is 4 ounces, so it's 113 grams for those of you playing at home. And it's going to be really nice and fragrant when we mush it up in the blender. So as you can see, I've been going at this for a little bit, so a lot of them are starting to toast, but I've got it over about medium-high heat. And if you feel like they're starting to brown too early or unevenly, tone down the heat. And this is what I'm doing right now. And I'm just going to keep swirling it around so they all get a go at hanging out by the fire. So here we go. And this looks pretty much done now. And I know that it's called sesame salt, but it has sugar in it as well, because I guess Asians like to put sugar in everything, or maybe just the Vietnamese. But this is nice and toasty, and I'll keep on toasting while I get my other stuff ready. But we need to mash it up. So here we go. I've got my little food processor, and I'm not too worried about this being too hot and then being put into the food processor, because I'm going to whiz it for just a really short amount of time, so it doesn't have time to get all steamy and mushy. So in here, I'm going to add about half a cup of sugar. It's nearly equal amount, so we've got in the pan, 4 ounces of sesame seeds, which is about a cup and 2 tablespoons, give or take. It's like a heaping half cup. And now I'm just going to pop in, my sesame seeds. See if I can get all this in without spilling. Oh no. Oh, you know what? You would have thunk it. Here we go. Whoopsie. That's okay, there are plenty of sesame seeds in there, so the ones that have escaped, just let them go. So, sesame seeds, salt, sugar. So now for the candied part of the candied cashews. In here I've got half a cup of sugar, and I've dissolved it in 1 tablespoon of vinegar. And I've just let it cook and dissolve until it's a nice golden color. You don't want it to get too brown, because it continues cooking when we bring the cashews to the party. So I'm going to add the cashews, and I've got 2 cups of cashews. Now you can always substitute peanuts if cashews are too expensive or you don't like cashews, but I personally love cashews. It's nice and buttery and rich tasting. Okay, so I'm just putting it in and mixing it, and I want to make sure that every kernel is nicely coated. And it does get really sticky, but you just got to keep it moving. There you go. It's nicely coated, and once it starts to coat and it keeps on cooking, it gets to the hard crack stage where the sugar becomes really brittle and crunchy. And that's when you start adding the nice sesame salt that we just made. So you could even add it earlier. You see it's really starting to come together. And also the sugar is turning into a nice caramel color. Because that's what caramel really is, it's just burnt sugar. Here we go. And the reason why we dissolve the vinegar in with the sugar is because sugar needs an acid to stabilize it. Because if it doesn't have an acid like lime juice or baking soda or vinegar in my case, then it starts to crystallize, and the next day it'll be all soggy and grainy at the bottom, and it's just not yummy. Okay, so the sugar's starting to really get hot and caramelized, and now I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of the sesame salt that I just made. Okay, here we go. And you need to work really quickly. 1, 2. And this is according to taste. If you don't like it too sesame or too salty, then that's fine. But I think that this is a really nice balance. And don't worry if the cashews stick together a lot, because you can just break it up. It's really brittle, and you can just go at it with a nice rolling pin or something. Take all your aggression out. So as you can see, the cashews are getting nice and toasted. The caramel color is definitely there. And they're all getting coated with that lovely sesame salt that we made. Let's break them up so they get more. And the really fun and yummy part about this is that sometimes the sugar just comes out in sheets, and you know, you don't have to have the cashew, you can still eat the candy part around it. It's still just as good. So now that's done. Isn't that gorgeous? And I know it looks sticky and a little soggy, but I guarantee you it's going to be nice and crunchy and brittle when it cools. So I'm just going to pour it all out onto my silpat. If you don't have a silpat, use some buttered foil or some parchment paper. I wouldn't recommend using wax paper, only because I've used it before and I had to peel off chunks of sugar, and sometimes you taste it and it's still a little bit papery. So go ahead and splurge. Get like some parchment paper or some foil or a silpat like I am. And I'm just going to spread it out into an even layer, because that makes it really easy for me later on when I go to break it up into nice little bite-sized pieces. And there we go. Sweet, crunchy, nutty, and salty. This is absolutely gorgeous. This is the end result, and we had a lot more to start off with, but while it was cooling, I kept on picking little itty-bitty pieces of it. So this is all that's left, but you have to try this recipe at home and let me know what you think.